I'm Jessica Brown-Findlay and I play Alice in Labyrinth. She's the youngest daughter of Pelletier, and she's quite young at the beginning of the story and very happy with her life, and she's married and, you know, makes potions all day and sort of walks down to the river and is very content and quite a quiet creature and very peaceful with herself and others. And she goes through this huge journey, this big expectation, this big weight is put upon her, and her life turns upside down, and many things. She goes through really quite a tragic story, and she's strong. She's a heroine and quite modern in her own way, and yeah, she's a special little creature. To play a heroine in this kind of story, and it's, you know, it's quite violent, it's quite dark, it's very demanding, and instead of it being a man leading this journey, there are two women, and they carry that story, and they carry the weight of the emotion, and physically as well. They have, you know, we both, Alice and Alice, really have to take that on as well and become very involved, and it's great, it's wonderful. It's something that as a woman, as an actress, you don't come across a lot, and so when I did, I was just, I had to grab it by two hands. Well, Vanessa Kirby, who plays Alice, and my character Alice, they are linked directly through bloodline. They are related, but separated by 800 years, and through the labyrinth and the Grail, they are. Alice eventually discovers that she is the key that was lost when Alice died, and the Grail was lost, and she discovers this ring, and there's this wonderful dreamlike connection between the two of them. I mean, Alice, my character, doesn't know that, of course, because it's the future. But Alice has a very strong emotional bond with this person. And it takes her a long time to understand what that is. And at first she just thinks they're incredibly vivid dreams, and then everything starts to unravel, and she is told about the history of these people and this person in particular, and the Grail, and it's all, yeah, it's fantastic. And instead of, in the book, they are almost identical in looks and everything. Instead of that, in the film, it's more their heart, their soul, the person that they are, and the way in which they are that links them. So, which is a really interesting thing, I think. One of the character triangles that Alice is sort of caught up in is between my father, my sister, and Alice, and it's an interesting one because they are related, but we obviously find out that my father is in fact not Oriane's father, but we share a mother. And it's an interesting one because I believe, sort of story-wise perhaps, that when they were younger, they got on and they just, you know, two kids, two girls growing up, and slowly as you become a person, a proper one, a real in tune with one's thoughts and start to grow into the person you will be, they start to separate. And because of my father's affections for me and his lack of for my sister, because of his inability to forgive our mother, I am bestowed love and she doesn't ever get it back, and so there's this bitterness. And so despite Alice thinking that everything's hunky-dory and all fine, she in fact is incredibly, Oriane is incredibly hurt and becomes very bitter and almost, maybe not necessarily consciously, but chooses the role of evil over good, and so those feelings manifest into something far darker in Oriane. Having done so much research on that period, and especially because it's based in real, true history, this sort of genocide, and it's extreme, and these people lived in a world that was so threatened and could so instantly be changed and turned upside down by the threat of an invasion. And religion played a huge role in that, for such tiny, insignificant differences in a way. When you look at it, it's all people who had faith. But you know, that difficulty that we all know now, you know, of those two colliding and not being able to coincide and cohabit and live with one another. And physically, it is very demanding, and Alaïs has to take. Well, she ends up being very caught up in that violence, and it's been amazing for me with fighting scenes and learning stunts and everything. It's been very physically demanding, and we're doing lots of scenes up this mountain. She's been physically dragged by my feet across this like stone. I loved it. It was brilliant. But that's great as well, because instead of a female character being pushed to one side when all that happens, she is forced into it, but deals with it and takes it on, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's a great period to play. My wardrobe, I mean, it's really wonderful, because I was so afraid it would be all flouncy and patterns everywhere and long sleeves and you know, constant beads in my hair and things, and we've kept Alaïs incredibly simple. It's been really wonderful to be able to play that kind of character and for it to come through in the clothes, and a lot of the colours are very muted, because obviously they wouldn't have bright fluorescent colours because they just didn't exist then. They're actually incredibly comfortable because they're not tight-fitting and they're very simply cut. And I'm enjoying a lot of my costumes, they're just sort of seeped in mud, or if a hole starts to develop, it just stays, because their clothes weren't perfect and they wouldn't have been clean. And I've got a much cleaner face right now, but normally it's far sootier and dirtier, and it's a wonderful element to bring to a character, to be able to not have to worry about perfection or looking a certain way all the time if one's hair is out of place or messy or muddy, or it just is, and they wouldn't have really been able to do much about it. So that's been great, because you just forget about all of that, and you're not preened and poked and prodded all the time. You're just allowed to just be. A day that really stood out for me, we're filming at Harif's house, and we were filming with Bella, the actress who plays my young daughter, Bertrande, and we just had this beautifully sunny day, and sort of lots of kind of lying in meadows and spinning her round, and we went very Tree of Life on it. And but it was stunning, and it was really lovely to have a day where it was about the lightness and the happiness that Alaïs does have for 7-8 years. She does have a rather blissful time in her life, sort of in between one very sad moment and the departure of leaving and having to build a new life, and then the other half of the story. And that was lovely to play, because they were just great. And then this other scene we had, it was a real moment that I had to pinch myself, because it really felt like, oh my God, we're working on a massive thing. Was a scene where all the men come in from this siege, and they've been, the river has fallen and all these things, and just huge crane shots and hundreds of people just bleeding and screaming and running through and trying to find Guillaume. And Eamon is amazing, and he just gave so much, and he's so strong, as his character is so quite vivid in that sense, and quite sees some things incredibly simply, and Alaïs sees this strong man constantly in her life. And the way that scene played out, it was far more broken, and it was this moment of panic. And that was great to play, because it sort of is this tilting point story-wise, and that was amazing to do, that kind of thing. And I've watched it and just pans back. It's great. Another scene that was amazing, and that for me, you know, growing up adoring film and everything, just a very silly thing, but we did this scene and we had this huge rain machine and running through the streets in sort of thick cloaks, and that everyone was very baffled about the fact that I was excited to get soaking wet, and kept telling me, next take you'll be annoyed about it, next take you'll be going all diva and all cold, but I loved it. It was great just seeing it all up there, and it was the sort of scale of this job I've never done before, and I've never worked with people like I've worked with people on this job. It's just the best cast, best crew, just insane.